Hello and welcome to the Bluff Creek Project Podcast. I'm Tate Hieronymus, and I am one of many hosts of this podcast. I'm joined with me tonight by Ranger Robert Leiterman and Rowdy Kelley. What is up, guys?
Hey, Tate. Nice to see you, man.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. We're so connected, man. We're on different sides of the United States. Are you still in Florida?
Sadly, yes.
No. That's gonna be your pilgrimage this summer, is to come back to California and go to the Bluff Creek, right?
Good
That's
grief.
a long drive. That's a long drive.
It's going to be a long drive. Yeah, you're so right. How are you doing, Robert? You were just on with me the other night.
Yeah, it was Thursday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday.
Whatever day it was. Thursday.
I can't even tell.
Thursday. It was Thursday.
Let alone Thursday. Yeah. I'm fine. I'm kicking back in my usual spot in the backyard. Listen to we have a family of ravens nesting. Can't see it from here, but within a stone's throw away. Definitely for a rowdy arm. And got the nest, and the young one are just hatched out a few days ago, and they need to be fed. So you hear all the young is making all this noise, and the ravens getting real protective and chasing my little cat away every time they see him. It's kind of funny.
So I had this cool idea, guys. I thought we could do it's different from the in the field stuff, which is probably some of my favorite things of what we've done, and then just different from regular interviews. Because Rowdy here has been the fixer, and he's worked on like Finding Bigfoot several times. Robert, you've worked with Finding Bigfoot before. I was in a recreation of one of the very last episodes of the season, the whole series. So, I mean, in some way or another, I feel like each member of the Bluff Creek Project has been on some television show or had something to do with it in some form. So I thought we could talk about some of the Finding Bigfoot episodes that they filmed in Willow Creek and give a little cool behind-the-scenes stuff that people haven't heard that I think would be really fun to talk about.
Yeah, there's that cool shot of me.
Took that shot. I don't know who took that shot.
I think this guy named Mr. Kelly took that one. It's like
all right.
Spotlight at nights from the back, but I think Tate made it all black and white, but it used to be a color shot.
Yeah.
Good shot, though.
That's the advent of a good iPhone camera night ability to shoot at night. It was pretty cool. Anyway, let's get going.
Yeah. All right, so I'll play this first scene from the Willow Creek episode it was the first time Finding Bigfoot went to Willow Creek and did an episode, so here it goes.
Oh yeah, right here and over in there.
One thing that strikes me immediately is with the lens on the old camera that they used, it had the effect of making everything look more far away. And when we're standing there and we're seeing this valley that's a lot more narrow than it appears in the footage, I'm realizing they were right on top of it. They were seeing enough detail to know whether or not this was a guy in a costume.
So yeah, I remember when I first saw that episode and my very first time to Bluff Creek, my very first time to the film site, I'm like, this doesn't even look like the film site. And it didn't even look like the film site on the episode. So that was my 2 cents. I know, Rowdy, you were there. I think you were there when they filmed that.
Right. Well, that's right around the time that I started getting involved with the Bluff Creek Project. Robert was leading an expedition. It was probably a week or two before we started shooting that episode with the BFRO. So I knew I was going to work on that. So I called up Robert. Robert and I knew each other, and I knew Robert was the Bigfoot Ranger. And I think we had probably done a couple of productions together, maybe just one. But I knew Robert from being a ranger and doing my location managing on different projects. So I called him up and said, "Hey, Robert, let's I'm going to be working on this show. We're going to be going to the Bluff Creek and going to the Patterson Gimlin site." And he's like, "Well, lo and behold, we got a BFRO expedition coming up. So why don't you come out on that?" And that's where I got really involved with Stephen and Robert, and they kind of sucked me down into the Bigfoot hole especially the Bluff Creek Project hole. But we ended up scouting that a couple weeks before, but we never walked all the way up to the film site. So Robert was leading an expedition, or a group of people up from the bridge, up the creek, taking the route of Roger and Bob up to the film site. But a few things happened along the way with a bigger gentleman. Anyway, I had to walk them out, and I never went up to the film site. First time I went to the film site was actually when we shot that episode right there. And Bobo and Cliff and Bob all kind of walked up to that spot. And as I was standing there, yes, I was like, there's no way this is the site. I haven't, they're in the wrong spot. This doesn't compute to me at all. And of course, probably a month or so later, I was there with Robert and Stephen. And, once you got to the background and you got all the way to the back and you saw the trees, you knew it was the right spot. But at that time, no, I didn't think that was the right spot by any means, at least from what I had been looking at with Stephen and Robert in this book. That one night around the campfire, so to say, they got really drug me in to the importance of the Patterson-Gimlin site, which I didn't think was that important at the beginning. But as we got more involved with it and did more things with it and discovered more things, you start to realize the importance of it. So anyway, that scene, we barely squeezed that out. That was one of those days that we had a helicopter showing up, and they were going to film us film the group, the cast, on the river bar or on the creek bar. And there really wasn't a big enough spot there. And they really didn't time this out as far as getting the helicopter there. Actually, the helicopter got lost. They couldn't find us. That was the big problem. I was the ground control, and I could hear the helicopter every now and then, but he could never hear me because I was down in this deep canyon. So we had given him GPS coordinates, but he did not bring a GPS onto his helicopter. It was an R-22. And he's flying around the Bluff Creek region thinking he's just going to find the spot, which, once you get out there, you realize how big it is. I mean, it's even hard to pin it on the map every time for me. It's a tough spot to find. So it was kind of ridiculous. Backstory on that, there's even more stuff. We had to get another guy out of, lo and behold, had an R-22, and he lives in Orleans. And he actually flew up, and we had a landing site and a big old pull out type section of the road. You guys know where it is. And we landed 2 R-22s there so that guy could get some fuel, because that guy was running out of fuel because he was flying around looking for it. He couldn't find it. So that made that day kind of stressful. Eventually, I moved everybody down to a bigger sandbar, which is just down creek from the site. And you guys know where it is. It's a little more open. That's actually starting to get grown over too. But it just had a better presence. By the time we got the helicopter there and we got the one shot above everybody, it was just downstream from the actual film site. So it was a kind of a crazy day. A lot of hiking up and down, and really getting the experience of the from the berm down to the bottom. And actually, the backstory on that too, that's where I really established the initial trail from them digging out and making the berm. There really wasn't a good, safe way around that. And initially, we were going to try to get horses down to the creek. As you see in that episode, they start on horses. But Six Rivers did not want horses in the creek themselves. So we went ahead and stopped at the berm with the horses. But initially, we thought that was going to happen. So I made it so we could get horses all the way down. And that only took me a day, surprisingly. It wasn't as difficult as it seems, but it was a lot of fun. It was definitely difficult, but, I just made a day out of it. And that was one of the first days I was out there by myself. So I had Bigfoot on the brain. I didn't hear anything, nothing really happened, but I just remember that going through my mind each time I walked all the way down there. Definitely you're more excited at the beginning. and thinking you're going to see Bigfoot everywhere.
It's definitely like a really cool area too.
Yeah, no, it was incredible once you got there, and I realized how far out we were. It's a neat place. Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because people don't realize how much work actually goes into filming one little thing like that.
Sure. And those guys were down there, and we were, over there where Bob and Roger initially saw them. We never crossed the creek and went into where Patty had walked. Only Bobo crossed the creek. The rest of us stayed on this side of the creek. But it gave a good explanation, and Bob agreed with everything that Cliff was kind of throwing out as the action that Roger went through. And it actually started, a lot further back than you realize. Further down where there was a road at one time. Yeah, it was a good experience, but it's one of those places that once you go to, it kind of sticks in your head. And when I went back with Robert and Steven, I knew exactly where we were, where to go to, as far as where they said, and we kind of started from there. And those guys had already said, yeah, we're gonna do this site. And again, once you get to the back and you see the trees, it's the right spot. But up until then, you have no idea where you're at as far as the curve of the creek, and it's just too thick. Way too much.
That's what like my initial reaction was like, this doesn't look anything like it did.
You walked by it even after being there once,
No, I walked by it like after my third time being there.
Yeah, right.
Oh man, it was bad. Robert, do you have anything to add on this?
Yeah, I just want to give Rowdy more kudos that he gave for himself, because when they put that berm in, they basically just blocked off the edge of the road, dumped a whole bunch of dirt, and to get over that berm, you had to walk over the top and down the slope of the berm. What Rowdy did is on the far left side, he put a terrace in where you can walk and not have to worry about falling down into the ravine. That was a lot of work. And also, there's a section probably about, I guess, about maybe another quarter mile or so down from there, from the start of the berm. There's a big landslide on the left. And there's boulders and rocks that always cross the road there. That's one of the reasons why it was shut down. But anyhow, Rowdy moved a bunch of those rocks out of the way and formed a path wide enough so where horses can make it across there safely. So Rowdy put a lot of work into, that trail system, so trying to get that access. So yeah, he always talks it down, but he did a lot of work on that. And another thing
he's a humble guy.
Yeah, he is.
It's always less work when you're getting paid for it,
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And the other thing I wanted to add is that the area that they're filming in the Finding Bigfoot episode, where Bobo's walking on the opposite side of the creek, right, and they're sitting there looking back. Well, that general area there is pretty close to where we started our grid map, where we took our compass bearing north direction across the creek. So that is the Hinden's X. That is pretty much the place. And I know Gimlin talked about it. Maybe is looking familiar. Boba had been there. I know Cliff had been there. So I know both those guys had been to that area, and both those guys had been up and down on the upper sandbar looking at big trees, because that's what they were trying to use to indicate where the site was, by trying to find big trees. And so, yeah, so it's kind of interesting because that was in, correct me if I'm wrong there, Rowdy, but that was August, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you guys filmed? And in September.
I'm looking at the behind the scene pictures right now. Yeah, August of 2011. Yep.
Yeah, in early September, not early September, but mid-September, towards the end of September, we started making our trips back over towards the film site, tidying some things up. Yeah, so it's kind of funny how they did their filming a few months before we basically started doing the grid map work. So the irony of it.
Right. It worked out. It worked out well. I mean, at least it was some confirmation with, with people, and especially with Bob, because when I was there, to me, he was right on. He's like, yeah, this is the place. I remember, and he was kind of recounting everything, and it seemed to match up well what he was saying. So that's kind of another reaffirming item that we had when I was there with you guys. I'm like, we were here with Finding Bigfoot, and Bob even confirmed this was the right spot. So
How you gonna
Yeah,
argue with
because
the
I
man?
remember because the book that's supposed to come out, the Bluff Creek Project, I asked Rowdy to do it a little a chapter section or kind of a write up, and he talks about that as his experience dealing with that injured individual. I should say injured. He wasn't injured. He was overweight and probably should have never gone down there. But it's a public place. You can advise people not to do it, but you can't make them not go. Anyhow, so Rowdy was really helpful in that situation too, where he escorted the husband and wife back out towards the road and made sure they made it all the way, and that was quite a chore. And I thanked Rowdy before, but I just adds to Rowdy's character and how he's such a giving individual, and he does a lot for people. I just want to throw that out there.
I know he made spaghetti and gave it to me.
multiple times.
Multiple times.
Oh, yeah, and he also cooks. Yeah, and he cooks for us. Yeah.
Good times. Okay, so I got this. The next clip I have is of Bobo doing the recreation or doing the walk.
Bobo, roll. Go for it. You're Roger. He's steady. Got that arm swing.
Perfect.
And right about there, shift 10 feet to the left and continue filming.
Good.
He's looking
Bo.
good.
Good.
All right.
And run out of film right there.
That's it.
Looks like they had the camera too, as I remember. That was just they had to utilize something with the walk, and that was just the only open area was right along the bank there. So that's why I think they never got up into the woods, because there was just nothing to shoot in the woods. It was just too overgrown and too thick. But they were recreating it all on that side. I think he had the initial recreation of them off the horses and running forward. But we know where the 352 spot is, and it's across the river, or it's across the creek on the other side. So there's a lot of downtime there where you ran across the creek.
So yeah, you were saying they were filming across the creek because there was not a lot of, it was overgrown.
Oh, they just didn't want to cross the creek, and there wasn't anything. Yeah, once you get across the creek, it was just so tight right there with vegetation. There wasn't enough room to film, so they just stayed on that side to get the point across. I mean, they were on the right spot, but that last segment just wasn't, where it was supposed to be. But we didn't know that until later, exactly where that was. Actually, it was like 3 years ago now, wasn't it, Robert?
Yeah, because we took another using triangulation, used the other stumps and used the other measurements that Renee had done, and pinpointed the Rogers 352 position much better.
Yeah, we just had a better visual than 2012 when Munz did it. We helped Munz establish where it was, but there was so much vegetation and branches down then, and then over the years we just cleared the site up. And I noticed that probably the year before or earlier that summer, I'm just like, we got to redo this, because I got visual all the way to Smiley Stump and into the pool cue. And after we lined that up, then we found the second item that's in the foreground, which is the fir log that's down, has a branch sticking up. It's very prominent, and that's still there. It's probably sunken down a little bit from decomposing, but that was a third line of visual line that lines up the smiley face, pool cue, and then the fir branch in the foreground, and those line up perfectly on frame 352 if you look at it.
Yeah, it's in the shot. A lot of people don't know about that one little stubby little branch thingy sticking out, but and to think we'd find it again 3 years later, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, we found it, that pretty much from doing that survey. I think it was that same day, because later in that day we went ahead. Was it later that day we did the first recreation with a film. I think it
Yeah,
was.
You had Kip walking down. You're trying to use the camera to film it. Yeah.
Yeah, that came out, I think, okay. We're going to try it again this summer I found a 20 millimeter lens right here. It's still in the bag. I got to take it in and see if it fits the camera, but that's the 20 millimeter I've been looking for since 2018. Just, checking eBay and all the different factions, and I finally found one. So there is a 20 millimeter lens. That's kind of what Munn's concluded for his chapters about what lens was used. He kind of came to the same conclusion we did when I recreation. The 25 made Kip, much bigger than Patty, and then the 15 millimeter made him noticeably smaller. I mean, it was kind of it didn't look right as far as being that much smaller than Patty. It could have been, but that led me to be it's either the 15, but sure in the heck can't be the 25, because from this position with a 25 millimeter shooting through a K100, Kip was, he was a lot bigger, not a lot, but enough bigger than Patty that it wasn't the right lens, I don't think. But those are just assumptions. We're going to go ahead and try the 20 this summer.
Right.
And we'll probably do one early in the summer, and then we'll do one closer to October 20th. We don't have enough light down in there through the trees for it to really matter that we do it on the exact same day. We'll try to be there on October 20th again. We got some other things to figure out as far as sun angles and really measuring that and putting more of a pin on what time of day they were there. I think that's our 2-part project for the summer, is the lens and figure out exactly what time of day they were there.
It's going to be one busy summer.
Yeah, well, that'll bookend it.
Question.
All righty. Yeah. So we'll move on to this next little bit that I got here.
So the perfect guy to go talk to is modern day Al Hodgson, Steve Strupfer. Strudy.
Hey, Bobo.
What's happening, man? If you want to talk about your Bigfoot encounter or sighting, go to Bigfoot Books.
Yeah, Bobo's the #1 customer here.
Steve's kind of become like the central point for people to come in and tell their stories in the community. So he tells me what's going on a lot now.
Oh, great. When I first came up here, I was actually kind of skeptical of Bigfoot, but sitting in here, I get the reports from locals all day long. Once you live in the middle of it, you start realizing that it's actually happening. It's not just something that happened in 1958, it's happening now.
Have you yourself had any experiences?
I did have something come down in my yard one night, and when it was coming downhill, it lost its center of balance, apparently. You could hear this very high center of gravity thing hitting the ground. Moved back into the neighbor's yard and came creeping down along the side. As it went by, I heard it kind of... The next day, there were 2 footprints, with a long stride, pressed down into the grassy plants.
If you can talk to any good witnesses that might have some stories, especially if you know anyone that has any kind of physical evidence we could examine, tell them to come to the town hall meeting tonight. We'd love to see them. I'm hoping someone shows up to the town hall meeting and tells us where the Squatches were last night. I want to be able to get some evidence, document some proof, and make this expedition a success.
Hope you can find Bigfoot out there.
We'll never stop.
So what's your guys' thoughts on this? Like, how did Steven... Did they go to Steven, or did Steven go to them to get in to do that for the show?
Oh, I think Bobo contact. That's the way it works. Is just whoever's got the contacts. It worked out good for Steven. He was in the midst of it at that time, with people coming to him, and he had made some local news, writing some stuff for I think it was for the North Coast Journal, but about Bigfoot. I didn't really. I remember hearing about all that his rebuttal to whatever it was going on about Bigfoot that he put out in North Coast Journal before all of this happened. I think it probably happened like a year before or something like that. Bobo and I had actually worked together on a film before we shot this, called Bigfoot, the Lost Coast Tapes. And he had already started shooting this show, but he was in town, and one of the producers on that show wanted Bobo to come in and do security at night because I had locations out in the hills. And I was an acquaintance of Bobo. I'd met him several times at different factions in Southern Humboldt and just had a whole scene. And I was like, yeah, cool, come on in. And then he ended up kind of helping the guy that was going to walk around like with a Bigfoot outfit on, how to walk. And then the director was all excited, that Bobo was there because he was all into Bigfoot. And Bobo started telling us about the Finding Bigfoot shows and stuff like that. But,
because the Finding Bigfoot was on for a while before this episode came out. I think a couple seasons, right?
No, this was pretty much the end of the first season.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they shoot in chunks. So, they'll take some of those out and put them in different seasons. But this was kind of the finale. It was a 2-hour special. And that's what I worked on 3 of their 2-hour specials.
I'm trying to. So this is one of them. I think Bobo's was. It wasn't Bobo's backyard, right? Was that
Bobo's backyard? That was just a regular show. But then I did the Shasta episode too.
Okay, the Shasta one was really good, and then you worked on the
last one.
The last one. It's funny. This is the only episode I can't find anywhere else. It's not even on YouTube. Nowhere. Not on.
The last one.
No, this one, The Birth of a Legend, the first Willow Creek episode. I can't find it anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, I happen to have a copy of it on my computer. So.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah. So.
I think it was a good episode. I mean, they still had some bucks back then. They were putting the money into their production. And then that's just typical for a show like this. I mean, they put a little money in. If it starts doing well, they start putting more money in. And when it peaks out, they're putting money in, but then they start funneling money away to start making other shows. And they start making these shows get lean towards the end, which I think can compromise some of their ability and quality of what they want to do. But it just shows these guys, they stuck it out. They did a good job there's a lot of shooting. Yeah, I think they shot 100 episodes. I mean, that's crazy. That's a lot of episodes.
Wait, 101 now because they did that brand new one this year.
Right.
We'll
hopefully
see if
off for him again.
Yeah, we'll see if we'll get him back again. Well, hopefully. So, I'll move on to this next clip.
Folks, I've got the pleasure to stand up here and introduce you to a very special man, Mr. Bill Munns.
All right, Bill Munns. Bill is an expert in special effects costume design, and he was working in the film industry back in 1967 and knows the techniques that were being used then all the way up to today. He's studied the Patterson-Gimlin film for more than 10 years now. If anyone on the planet has the qualifications to decide if that thing's real, it's Bill. And Bill says it's the real deal. Today is going to be very significant because I was told Bill Munns has a new discovery to unveil to the world regarding the Patterson-Gimlin film.
So, yeah, this was the Return of the Legend. This was the second time in the 100th episode that they filmed.
Right.
What year was that? Was it 2018?
17.
2017. So yeah, they're talking about the photo that Bill Munns has something to reveal, and he showed the picture, which is in the episode. But they at the China Flats Museum, I was there. Bob Gimlin was there. Bill Munns was going through different film footage, but I think Beck Jord, he was going through like some Beck Jord film footage that he had. They were trying to find a piece of the Patterson-Gimlin film. I think it was like a second generation copy.
It wasn't what they thought it was going to be, but it's still cool to have.
Yeah, it never made air, unfortunately. I mean, do you know why that could have been, or just
I don't know. I don't know what they it was just the same footage over just what generation was it? So Yeah, that was 2017, and that's when they finally, the final episode, they highlight Bluff Creek Project. We went out in the hills with Robert and produced a segment with for the Bluff Creek Project and our game camera project. That was, that's another example of what these guys go through. What was that hike in? How far was that, Robert?
I want to say about 3-ish miles, which is interesting because
well, that was just one way, so that was round trip. I think we clocked it almost 8 miles, as I remember.
Yeah,
is it from the
walking
gate
around over at the High Mountain Lake area too? Well, the reason, let me tell you a little story that talks about this one thing. We were supposed to go out and check our cameras, and I didn't want to just park on the shoulder road, walk 300 feet and check a camera and then say, yeah, this is our area out in the middle of nowhere. Just, I have to sleep at night, look myself in the mirror. So I said, I'm not going to do that. So I went out the day before and I took poor Kip with me. I says, yeah, just a little further, Kip. It'll be a quick walk. So we drove to pretty much on the Cedar Camp Road, almost to the top where it connects with the other main road, but it didn't quite make it. There was snow blocking the way. So we had to park our cars, get out, and we had to hike about a quarter mile through the snow, sinking in a little bit. We didn't have snowshoes, only to our knees. So I kind of, poor Kip, I drug him out there. Anyhow, we got to the road and we made a left, and then we headed out to the High Mountain Lakes area. And then the snow dissipated, and then morale got better. We walked all the way over to the area there just to make sure, everything was fine and the cameras were still good and everything was there. We didn't touch anything, but we couldn't have come up the bottom on Slate because there was a slide about Rowdy, 2 miles up, and the road slid out. So you can't get through.
Right. Yeah. It was 2 miles out. That put a kink in a lot of things, but again, it made more of an adventure out of it, I think. So it was good.
Well, I do have that scene we can talk about coming up here shortly. We can definitely go into more detail on it.
Yeah, well, I was there with you as well for that.
Say what, Robert?
I was just saying I was there with you as well when we went inside the, so was Rowdy. We went inside the visitor center there, and we listened to Bill Munns give an awesome description of how the lead of the tape went, all the different tapes. He went through a couple of the reels. He kind of talked about them. They're big concern that there's some porn was going to pop up that was kind of stashed away there, but that never happened. But it was a great time. And you were there. Yeah. Well, the camera crew was there filming everything, so they just edited that part out. But that was nice. It was a good time. I think Rowdy was there too. I was there.
Kip was there.
I was there all the time.
Yeah, I figured everywhere we were, Rowdy was there too. It's just
no, we had a split. We did have one night where we had to split our production up, and that was the night that we actually went out to the High Lakes area for your segment.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Robert,
that's why here's another behind the scenes thing is that's why the big microphone didn't work. The big parabolic microphone didn't work because I wasn't out there set that up. They didn't know how to set it up the right way, and they actually had the wrong mic. They had a hypercardioid mic, and they should have had an Omni mic instead. But anyway,
all right. So that's in here. We can talk about that for sure.
Yeah. Well, actually, Tate, I just want to finish up the part I started.
Oh, well,
it's to Cliff's credit that he wanted to hike up with us that 3-mile one-way trip with 7 of us to go film this episode all the way up to High Mountain Lakes into the darkness and then hike back out, and walking around that place. But it's to his credit that he said, yeah, let's do it, because we tested it before to make sure it's possible. And I called him and said, hey, it is possible. He said, well, let's do it. But I kind of felt for the cameramen and the sound guys who had to carry those batteries and all that equipment, the 3 miles in and then the mile all over the place or 2 miles all over the place. And then I hiked all the way back out. So that's all I wanted to add to that. And just to Cliff's credit, he said, let's do it, versus I don't want to do it. That's too far. So there you go.
They do almost that much distance in a night investigation too. So that's kind of what they do. So those guys are seasoned. They were pros. That's what they were.
They know what they're doing. But yeah. So continuing on with the Bill Munn's photo.
Why I'm here today is a rather unusual situation. The local museum was given a donation of the research collection of Eric Beckjord after he passed away. Now, Eric is one of the more prominent people who researched this film for many, many years. Turned out there were some rolls of film among the 18 boxes of documents and such. For the last film, first thing that we see is footage of Bob Gimlin and his little pack horse. We go a little further into the reel, and all of a sudden, we have a copy of the Patterson-Gimlin film. On a reel we did not expect.
The original Patterson-Gimlin film is lost. No one knows where it is. And clearly that would be the one with the most information on it and the best images. What we have are 3 known first-generation copies, but not anymore. A 4th has been discovered.
All right, this is one frame cropped from Patterson's archive copy, which was generally considered one of the better copies that are around. That's about as good as you're going to see from a single copy. If you can take 4 copies and put them into Photoshop in layers, the image gets better, the grain gets less.
Bill Munns, using modern-day technology, can combine the images of all 4 copies and get a replica of what the original film probably looks like. In other words, the best copy of the Patterson-Gimlin film ever made outside of the original.
Now, I haven't done the whole film through this process, but I was able to do a few frames just to experiment and prove the process worked. Ryan, would you bring up 354B? That's the difference.
Yeah. Look at that.
The new image that Bill Munns pieced together is night and day when compared against a first-generation copy. Look at that. The new image is bright and vibrant and way more focused than even a first-generation copy. This is the biggest development in Bigfoot in decades.
So yeah, I wanted to finish that to talk about. I seem so enthusiastic when I'm shown on camera, right?
Haven't changed a bit, Tate.
I think what the thing was is like I've seen that photo probably so many times in high definition too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's a great. Yeah, I've got that TIFF. I've got that copy of that in a TIFF, and it's a great. It's a great composite. It looks great. Yeah, it gives you so much more definition.
It's super cool. And you know what's really cool? This is up in the pod or the episode later. I don't know if like the editors knew, but so the recreation I was with Brandon Kyle, I was wearing the same sweater as I did when I was in there.
I don't think anybody cared or noticed. Hey, Robert was part of the backstory on that recreation. So that happened actually at the BFRO expedition that I attended with Robert and Stephen. We weren't on that portion that when that happened, but Robert went back up the next morning and did a follow-up investigation. So Robert can give you some backstory on that, on your recreation.
Yeah, Robert, when we get to that scene, I think it was like shortly. When we get to that scene, let's talk about that. But yeah, it should be coming up. We're more than halfway through this, so we're getting there.
We all know this area very well. There's too much land to cover, so we want to break off into separate teams and bring you guys out with us to our favorite Bigfoot spots.
You know what's a hot spot? This area right in here.
Yeah.
So yeah, here's Here's a behind the scene photo of everybody at the table plotting out where they're going to go. You can see Chad Hamill with the director. There's Rowdy all the way to the left. Cliff and Bobo, Matt and Renee, Bart, Brandon, and Russell Accord, Bob Gimlin, and then Robert's kind of hidden right over there.
Now, this is one of those episode things that happened where like, why is Russell Accord in there? What he had no presence as far as, you know, he wasn't a character. He was just like, he's the guy that brought Bob. That's all we knew, you know. Suddenly he's in this you know, round table. It's kind of funny. Robert and I were both, everybody was like, who's this guy? Now he's on the show. So hey.
Kudos to him, I gotta say, you know. I think
he got in there.
It did. I think
they were asking me if I wanted to be a part of this with Robert and do that whole sequence. You know, and I probably would have been standing there in this round table because you see Robert's on the far right. But I don't know. I didn't want to mix my roles as far as being a fixer, which is a producer, and working on the show. And I really felt like Robert needed that spotlight. He deserved it, man. He was the batteries. He was the guy that was pushing all the time, that really got the site done, the site survey done. You know, he's always the guy that's there keeping things going. If it was left up to, you know, Steven and I, we'd just be talking about it most of the time. So Robert's the guy that he's the guy that pushes things through, and he really deserved that airtime.
It's super cool.
A lot of effort into the film side and into the Bigfoot phenomena.
It's funny, every time I see this episode, like, I'm friends with that guy. But yeah, Robert's part's coming up later in this episode, which is cool.
Bart's there too, man. I mean, this was pretty good round table there.
Bart's right.
Yeah,
there.
it's. I'm looking at this picture. Brings back memories, and what's from this picture? You can't see Matt. He's kind of hid behind Cliff. But what's also is just off camera is a couple local guys calling Matt out. Almost thought we were gonna have a fight out there.
I remember that. I remember they had a dog, I think, that was barking, and then
yeah. Matt was in his prima donna, you know. He's like, "Come on, dog, to shut up." You know, he was here all like thinking everybody knew we were on set and this big, huge TV show was being shot, and everybody better shut up, you know. And me being local and a few guys, you know, like, no, let's not tickle that, because those guys won't back down if you start being an asshole to them. They're just going to be more assholes, you know. That's
exactly. I was like,
you calm down first, Matt. You calm down first, and then we'll go over and gently talk to these guys. You know, we're not going to yell at these guys with their dog and expect something to happen.
I remember that. Matt was like, I remember. I was like, oh dang.
Robert knows that. You know, he knows how to deal with those situations.
I thought that was like,
yeah, just turn around, calm names, they'll shut up.
No,
Right.
So I believe the word he used was, did he like, hey, shut that damn dog up or something like that? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember the quote, but I thought for sure it's good. The whole show is going to get pretty interesting there for a minute.
It was going to go from a round table to a WWE.
Yeah, and then we'll wait a little bit, then we'll jump in.
Tag team.
Yeah.
Oh, brother.
Sorry, I didn't.
Unless they're just attacking Matt, we'll just all watch, you know. So.
Yeah. Okay, it's time to go in now.
All right.
Dude, this is killer. Look at, when'd you get that?
Not too long ago. There's the old speaker.
Yeah, I recognize that.
Ball blaster, 20 years old now.
That's the box that we used when I had my sighting. Yeah. Dude, this road's gonna be called officially now Memory Lane.
I feel so bad. I don't even think I've seen this part.
Oh no. So there's that dish that we
which is outside Steven's store right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great like, you know, advertisement, I guess. it actually works. And you can stand in Stevens, in front of Stevens' store and stand right in front of it, and you can do the reverse of what it is, or you can do it either way. But you can have somebody way behind you just whisper, and it echoes right. If you stand in the right spot, it echoes right into your ears. You're like, I can't believe you're 40 or 50 feet behind me and just whispering, and I can hear you that well. So it does work. They just didn't get the alignment. They didn't get the right mic and the alignment on it during the show. So I think
like super cool.
Did they fake it? Did they fake it? They might have faked it, that it actually worked, but it did actually work. We did a test run on it.
Yeah, because we were there when we were there in that little lot area where everything was happening, the festival where they did the round table scene. This was that same day. Earlier that day, I don't know if you were there, Rowdy, but I know Bart was there, Jamie and Robert and I were there, and we were still painting it. It was still being painted because it wasn't finished. And then we were testing it out there. We were like, hey guys, just stand in front of this, and it was cool. So we got a picture in front of it with Bart. I don't know who these two people are. Do you guys know who that is?
Yeah, the person to the far right. She was helping organize the booths, but yeah, she's a local. We see her from time to time.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
I can't remember her name right now. Yeah.
She was working with Heather, I think, my wife. Yeah. They're helping organize.
I don't know who the kid is though.
Yeah, I think when you guys half of that day, I had to go scout and find the location for your reenactment, Tate. So I left about halfway through, and I wish I wouldn't have left because a few things kind of fell through the cracks. Them talking to us at the Bluff Creek Project booth, and they let the public do their handshakes and autographs too early, and it just sucked up all the time. They shouldn't have done that. They should have done that at the end, but that's just the way it worked out.
Yeah, we could have all had spotlight, but it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
I'd like to give a little background on that disc. I think Jamie recovered it. He got it, so we decided to paint it, and Tate was there for the painting. We're looking for leaves and stuff and spraying different colors.
I remember that.
That worked out pretty well. I think we did that when we got there. We tidy up, whatever. But the hard thing was trying to get that transported from Stephen's books, Bigfoot books, all the way over to the park there on my FJ, and it wasn't enough straps to strap it down, so I had to hang on to it out the window with one hand, and the wind would pick up.
Yeah. I had to transport that. No, I'm the one that found the dish. I searched it out and found it. I had to transport it on my my Mercedes ML 320. The same idea. It was over my roof rack. I had a rack on it, but it still scuffed it up. I had that thing tied down tight. But you had the same problem. You had the same kind of rack.
I had to drive real slow.
Do you know how fun this thing would? Well, Robert,
and I forget about I was cussing out Jamie the whole time because I was supposed to get some support on that, and it was a solo unit.
Do you know how fun it would be to take this dish sledding over at the film site area, like on the hike down?
I don't know if you can get it to go one direction, but be spinning on you.
I mean, it'll be a wild ride. Let's just say that.
Oh, you mean down the bank?
Yeah.
No, we should give that a try up on top of the world up there, and get a good mount on it and get it set up and do some reconnaissance up on that ridge top.
That's what I was thinking. I could probably take it up on my way up there when I come up there.
I mean, it's an effort to get that thing up there, but yeah.
And how are you going to secure it to your car?
Tie downs.
You have the same problem. You'd be driving 20 miles an hour down the freeway with one hand out the window, trying to hold it on your roof while you feel like your car is like floating.
You had to fly it. You had to fly it like a frisbee. You had to get it just the right angle.
That's man. I mean, I'll figure it out. All right. Moving on.
The best experience that I had was on an expedition in 2011. About 6 of us were going to go check out an area that the night before we'd heard some talking. We all turned our lights off. I had one of the expedition people come up and say, there's a Sasquatch at the end of the road. I took this therm, and there at the end of the road was a really large something. My first thought was that it was a rock. We start walking down towards it, and then it very slowly turned to the left. And then above us to the right, up the hill, we heard a really loud wood knock. And then another one. And I turned to him and said, that was very deliberate, and that was to let us know that we're not alone.
So yeah, here's a couple behind the scenes photos from that day. Brandon getting ready, rehearsing what they were going to do, and there's
Give me chills.
It was kind of chilly that day, to be honest, because there was still snow on the ground up on the higher elevation. And this was
give me chills watching that, the way they edited that, made it all tense and
that too.
That was incredible.
I felt chilled physically and then metaphorically later on when I watched that, like you're just saying.
That was a good recreation. We've been to exactly where that spot happened. Obviously, that's not where it happened.
So yeah, I think the reason they couldn't get up there because it was snowed in, right?
That
was one of the reasons.
Yes. Oh, where was?
No, I get that. I think the gates were still locked at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was May. Yeah, we shot this early in the year. A lot of gates were locked. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
I remember the whole reason I came up is because I think somebody working for the show, I reported, it was my first time to Bluff Creek when I had that incident when something came around our tent. I reported to the BFRO and then they contacted me because they were filming up there. I was like, okay, so I drove up there thinking I might be interviewed, but that didn't happen. And then so I was kind of just hanging around with everybody having a good time. And then
I drove you up to this recreation.
Yeah,
this is what finding earlier in the day was a good spot to recreate this.
So
that was within our permitted zone.
Yeah, Rowdy drove me up.
Yeah, you can't take the recreation serious because they're just they're just making stuff work. But yeah, it worked out. It looked good. Wasn't too far away out of town. And but I drove you up there. I remember that. That's when I first met.
Yeah, that was my first time meeting Rowdy, I think, officially.
Yeah, and you were where's the girl?
Right there at the bottom in the red hat.
You were trying to hit on her, man. You were right now, but you were trying to hit on her. She was riding up in the car, and Tate's dropping real obvious bombs, like what do you do? And she was a pretty cool chick, though. She was really cool. She did a good job too.
Oh God, that's hilarious. Yeah, I was totally hitting on her. But it was the whole reason I got onto this.
She wasn't having any of it. She wasn't.
Yeah, that usually happens when I try to do that. But it's funny because like that whole day, I was just hanging around and RPG was like, "Hey Tate, just hang around me in case something happens." And then it was kind of near the end of the day after they filmed that whole round table with everybody. RPG's like, "Tate, do you want to be in a recreation?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." And so
there you go. That's right.
And then I went over to Rowdy, and then we all drove up to this spot, and it was cool. So for people who don't know, there was only one camera guy there, and so we had to do that take 3 or 4 times, and then they edited it all together. So that's something cool people probably didn't know. There was only one camera guy, and then the director Chad Hamill right here, and then everybody else. Brandon is next to Chad to the left. Wearing the plaid button.
I must have took this picture.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the guy from the Bigfoot Motel, his wife was there too, but I don't think she was in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a few people there, and that was a good day. And you said Robert had some kind of key part into this recreation because Robert worked at the BFRO when they did the investigation.
Yeah, like I said, go ahead and lead into that, Robert.
So evidently this was a Saturday night when this all went down, and then it's basically that was the last night. and Sunday was checkout. Basically, we're all headed home Sunday. So I went out with Bill Brewer, and we did an on-hand investigation, and we put up on the BFRO YouTube channel. We put the 3 parts of the investigation with Rob Collier. We interviewed him because he was the guy that was with Brandon, looking at it and stuff. And so we kind of did an investigation, did some not really reenactment, but we interviewed.
You kind of froze there, Robert.
A couple others.
Say that again, buddy.
But the question always is, what were they filming that rock and thinking it was?
Yeah,
so, it's easy for us to sit back and.
Technical difficulties always happen.
Yeah, Robert, you're cutting out, but I'll explain what Robert was saying.
Just check that one heat signature there, because
the life of podcasting over the internet.
Well, Robert's kind of in a bad cell spot, so if a lot of people get on his cell tower, it probably cuts out a little bit. Looks like we lost him completely. Steven and Jamie and I went to that spot too. And there is a very distinct rock at the end of that point where they saw that could have been the heat signature that they were talking about. Because the rocks, if they're big enough, they absorb enough heat during the day. And this was, in the middle of summer. So that those rocks absorb a lot of heat.
Yeah, July.
Out a lot of heat during the night. And they'll definitely read on therm.
So
but yeah, you cut
for the
Robert. You cut out a bunch, Robert. So I'm just kind of filling in on the cutout parts.
I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm back again. Yeah. Anyhow, I think I cut out where we went back up, and the question is, could it have been like Rowdy had mentioned? Could it have been just the rock people saw, or was it maybe something else of sitting there moving? Because it'd be nice to get the same type quality of firm that we use, which isn't the very good one, which you use the modern one today, there'd be no question, but the tool at the time isn't the best tool, but that's what was being used, and it was passed around between 6 people. So pretty interesting. So the investigation is, we kind of went through the thing of it and trying to ponder the evidence and never making any accusations of, you're full of shit, because I met Rob Collier that one time, and I was a member of the BFRO in these expeditions, and his prior experience was very analytical. So he always looked at things from an analytical point of view. I wanted to take him and meet him again and go over the same thing and then ask him those various questions again. Was it that we're talking 2011? Be nice to ask him those questions like in 2021, 10 years later, and say, hey, what do you think? But anyhow, that's all I had to say on that.
It's all good stuff right there. It's a little backstory on where this happened and how it went down, I guess. So, yeah. And you said that's the therm they were using. You can kind of see it in the photo earlier. It wasn't the same one.
No, it wasn't.
It's funny because when they did the recreation. Oh, go ahead.
I was just to say, I have it written down, my memories, I forget a lot of stuff, but it was one of the older models that the BFRO used to use when the earlier therm experiments. And it's not the best quality of therm, but it's I'm debating whether it's as good as the Scout of today that we use. It's the Scout of today is probably a better quality than that was. Just saying.
That'll tell you something for anybody who's used the Scout like me. I use it. I know, Robert, you use one.
Yeah.
So moving on.
Oh man, whose truck is that?
I had to throw that in there. There was no sound on that one. So Rowdy, I don't think made any appearance in this, but his truck did.
Yeah, recognize that truck.
That truck is also in something you mentioned earlier. Was Was it in the Bigfoot Lost Coast tapes?
Let's say I got that truck right after I scouted for Finding Bigfoot. I totally wore out my CRV and I was like, I got to get a red truck. But it's the exact same truck that my character drove in Bigfoot, the Lost Coast tapes. It's the last generation of the Toyota pickups. So it's been in that. It's been in a couple of movies, and then there's something else it was in. I can't think of what it is right now. Recently, we just had it in another movie that we shot up here. But yeah, that's that. I got that truck basically right after Finding Bigfoot, and that's what I've been driving to Bluff Creek the last 10 years now. So yeah,
the truck is famous.
The official Bluff Creek truck, the Toyota truck.
You think of famous vehicles, you think of Kit from Knight Rider, the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and then Rowdy's Toyota from Finding Bigfoot and Lost Coast tapes.
Yeah, that truck's. I just took it out there. I just took it out to the Bluff Creek region this last Thursday. I made a quick trip out there, checked our camera, and did a rounder. Went to Mosquito Lake and got home real late. Yeah, I keep thinking it needs to go in and get rebuilt, but it keeps running because it's a Toyota. 300,000 miles, so it's just clicking.
Oh man!
But Robert's got the next generation. He's got the FJ. That it'll be going out there for another 10 years too.
Hopefully, my Honda Ridgeline makes it out there longer than that too.
Yeah, I like my FJ. It's I just can't back up very well with it. But other than that, I like it.
I'll get you a backup camera for Christmas, Robert.
Well, I do have one, but it takes a while to engage. But judging the distance with a backup camera, that's an acquired taste.
To each his own, I guess, on that one. So moving on, I guess, on this train of footage.
Shall we?
Follow me, sir.
I'm with Ranger Robert Leiterman, one of the members of the Bluff Creek Project. We're going to hike into a location that Robert and the Bluff Creek Project have now been putting cameras at for the last few years. They deployed their cameras right before the gates shut, so no one's been in there for months. While we're in there, I know it's a good Bigfoot spot, so we're going to do a little squatch in there tonight as well. I'll tell you, man, I can see why Bigfoots live here. It's beautiful.
Imagine this is your, like, every day you get up, you have to look at this.
Heaven.
Life is rough. Life is very rough.
Robert and his team have been deploying cameras at this high elevation lake for the last few years. I've been Bigfooting exactly here on several occasions and had great activity. So hopefully these cameras will show us something else beside the regular four-legged variety of critter that comes here.
See right over there?
Oh yeah, there it is.
There's a second one there to catch the other angle.
Right.
And the third one is over there.
Right, anything that goes through here is gonna get snapped at least once.
Yes.
It's like Christmas, man.
I know, every time we open these things, it's like Christmas time.
All right, let's see what we got here.
Yeah, cool.
Oh,
there's Bambi.
Yeah, there's a deer. Good, good.
Expect to see for sure.
Oh,
a fox, gray fox.
Look at that. Right there. Like you want to pet him.
He's scratching now.
Oh,
there we go. Look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there in front
Look
of
at the shoulder hump on that thing.
Checking the cameras is awesome, man. It's like Christmas morning. The gifts for us, mountain lions. Oh,
there we go. Look at this.
Yeah.
That's a big cat.
Bears. That is cool. Deer. Foxes. There's everything we were hoping for except the Sasquatch. But that doesn't surprise me either. Sasquatches are smarter than all these kinds of animals.
So, oh man, that was good. Life is rough. Life is rough, Robert. It really is when you go up there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. The hike was nice. Enjoyed the hike. It was good. Yeah. And we talked earlier about, getting up there and doing a test hike and make sure that you can get there from here. But that was a fun hike because I haven't seen Cliff in a while. And I first met Cliff back in 2005, I think it was. And It was with the BFR expeditions, and he was organizing one in the Sierras, and I joined in to help, and we hit it off. I liked him. It was a lot of fun, and we kind of been on and off ever since. So when I got an opportunity to go out with Cliff, to go squatching with my squatching buddy, it was kind of fun. And to his credit, I mentioned earlier, he says, yeah, let's just go up there anyway. It'll be a little hike, but it'd be good. But it was fun going up there and checking the cameras and looking at the stuff. And it was kind of a neat experience. And what you don't know is that we're sitting there looking at some of the pictures, but sometimes they wouldn't come up as easy, and what's not on there is I was trying to open up the locks and it was jammed. So there's an extra 5 minutes trying to get that thing opened up. And I'm glad it's not on there. It's like, how incompetent is that? So it was kind of cool. That was at the High Mountain Lakes. That's one of our cool spots. We probably had that camera out there for years. Rowdy, do you remember when you first installed that?
The wallow was, I think that was something that we did maybe a few years after we started at the film site, but not too long after.
Yep.
That's just been a really fun one. And that's something we can check during the winter too. It's not behind locked gates at that time.
Yeah.
Even
that's the same.
It was, but it's not. But that's cool. So I was just out there and I checked that camera. Didn't have any Bigfoots. You guys would know. So
I think that's the same place.
Sorry, hear about it.
Yeah, lots of squirrels and a few different animals. Pretty much the same things they showed. Some bear. Didn't get any cougars. And I put a new camera up to a new position on that wallow.
That was the same place we were at during that fire.
Yeah, by 2000.
Wasn't it? Because we were all at Bluff Creek when Bob Gimlin was up there. I think we were going to go camp in the Redwoods, but we camped there one night with Terry and Stevie, and you were there. I think that's the same lake, right?
When we went down to the film site, yeah, right.
Yeah, we did that. I did that knock and something knocked back. Probably, I don't know what that was.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was weird, but
yeah, I was just gonna say. That place. I did a couple podcasts up there with Bobo and Bart, and the last time we were up there doing podcast work, I like to play my flute, so I was up above the water's edge. And before I start playing, I usually play some really high notes because it echoes a long ways. So it is kind of irritating, but I do it anyway. But I do that, and it kind of echoes. And I had my recorder going because I was looking for a good, acoustically tuned flute program. And I hear a bobo going off and a bunch of other noises going on. And so I didn't pay any mind to it. So I just went ahead and did another one. And then I started playing my flute. When I finished up and went back to see what was really going on, Bobo said, yeah, while you were playing the flute, something threw a rock behind him. And when I played back the recordings, sure enough, I do the really loud scream on the flute, high pitch. Then you can hear something hit the ground. Can't tell direction because it's just recording off the water. And then you hear a bubble going off. So it recorded whatever it was, and the hillside was not very steep. So things just don't roll off the hillside. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But anyhow, yeah, that's a pretty cool place. And where we got the camera set up there, we have barred owls and spotted owls, and they're arguing. We hear them arguing. We get coyotes. That's a pretty active place up there with a lot of wildlife everywhere. And there's even places where the bears have a constant path, and there's hair fibers stuck to trees and branches where they squeeze through. So that's kind of cool. And we've had spotted owls taking baths. We've had birds down there. We've had all sorts of stuff going on with that camera there.
There you go. We got a ringtail there one time too.
Yeah.
That's something we haven't gotten on any of our cameras, is coyote.
Yeah, we hear them, but very seldom do we capture them.
Yeah, no, we haven't gotten those on the cameras.
They're just as elusive as the Bigfoots up there.
Oh yeah. Coyotes probably the most sensitive animal out there to humans, and being able to avoid humans. They are really sensitive. They're good at running from humans. They've learned, they know that they're going to get shot sometimes. But, you know, I don't think there's a lot of coyotes out there. I think they're more in the ranch lands. We hear them, but they're pretty far off.
So that explains why I never hear them as much when I go out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also want to add to that too is, you know, you think you see more bobcats than mountain lion up there, but we get more captured footage of mountain lion than we do bobcats.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that many bobcats, actually. We've gotten a few, but not a lot. Not as many as we gotten cougars. No, not as many as mountain lion.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I remember it was the second time up there. I think Jamie sent me a video. He's like, hey, there's a video of you guys on our trail camera walking down the trail from the berm to the bat boxes. And probably 10 minutes later, a cougar walks right through that same trail.
Yeah, it was later in the day, but yeah, it wasn't too long after. That happened with Robert and Jamie too. They were down at the site one day, and it was a few hours later a cougar came through. But yeah, you never know where they're at. And
pretty scary.
I still haven't seen one in person out there though.
You know, that's the very, very first time I ever saw a mountain lion was just outside of Ventura where I live. I was driving up the highway 33 outside of Ojai and walking right off the road. I'm just driving up the road, walking off the road was a mountain lion. I'm like, dude, what the heck? So
wow, that was nice.
That was pretty cool. I've seen a few bears up there too, so that was my first time ever seeing a mountain lion. But I've never seen one hiking. I'd like to keep it that way.
You're missing out.
I don't know. That one guy was like kicking rocks and everything and whatnot at it.
You're talking about that one guy that was he encroached a mother and kittens, and she's just trying to chase him off. Talk about that one.
Yeah. Not smart.
Well, he probably should have soon saw the kittens running around. He probably should have given more room.
Yeah.
Oh well, we live and we learn.
Exactly. All right. I think
he advanced toward her, but you know, she did her job. She got him out of there.
Yeah,
go for it. Keep going.
So yeah, there's this one scene in here with Robert, a little bit that I put in here. So.
Oh man, I can imagine right now, you and I sitting here. You say, "Hey, Robert, why don't you have a seat here?" And then have that happen.
Hey, Robert, why don't we have a seat here? Let's see if that'll happen.
All right, let's see what happens.
Okay.
So, this is what you do for a living, huh? Sit on roads in the middle of the night, screaming?
It's a living. It's good work if you can get it.
So, yeah, I feel like TV makes Bigfooting more exciting than it is in real life. Because that's basically all I want to do when I'm out there is just sit.
Hey, do you know how many times I sat in that very spot and looked up at the stars and watched the satellites and the shooting stars and made a few calls and knocks and listens and heard absolutely nothing except owls?
Let me guess. 100 times.
I don't know about 100 times, but numerous times.
Oh, that was a little off.
Just a couple zeros, but you know, we're good.
Just a couple zeros. Yeah, I think I was shooting for the stars on that one.
There were a lot of stars out there. I admit that.
I remember one couple years ago, we were hiking up the road and we kind of sat down where that rock slide area is going up to Onion from the film or from Louse Camp. That was pretty cool. Just overlooking that valley.
Oh yeah.
That was like beautiful. Didn't hear anything though.
Oh, that's a good spot too. And not to bring up Beat the Dead Horse or anything, but in the Willow Creek movie, where I was supposed to make some calls down into the canyon, I huffed it up that road just to get a clear spot to yell. But yeah, brings back memories.
And I think I have a few more photos that I put in here that we can talk about. So yeah, here's a photo. There's Terry Smith. I forgot he was there. And there's Cliff, there's Bob. This was the road dedication that they shot that never made it to air. I remember we were there for at least an hour trying to get this filmed.
Yeah.
This did make it to air. That's
no, yeah. I think we all know why. I took a panorama so you could see Bobo there. There's Chad, Renee. I forget his name. I actually rode with him in his van.
Morris. I can't think of his name. Yeah, he had that van. He had some merchandise at the fair too, right?
Yeah, he did. And then there's Rowdy.
Yeah. I'm in there, right? Yeah.
Say what?
I'm in there somewhere.
Yeah, you're right behind him, I think.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Right behind. And then to your left.
Yeah, off to the right. The guy with the long hair right behind him.
Yeah. Right behind the guy with the long hair, there's Rowdy. And then to Rowdy's left, that's Adam Foskey, a cameraman. It's funny. I think that's the first time I met Adam Foskey. And then I found out he lives in Ventura, California, where I was living at the time. And I actually ended up running into him. And I think his wife, they were going to see a movie. And it's like, hey, Adam.
He's a good guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I stayed in touch with him. He's pretty cool. So yeah, this never made it to air, but it was something cool to talk about. I think there was another photo. Yeah, this is the photo I took. So this is funny because the very first time they filmed here, Cliff was telling me he took a picture in this spot. And I was like, this guy looks just like Cliff. And Cliff was like, yeah, I took a picture of that very first time here when we filmed.
He did.
And I was like, well, let's do another one. You're here again. You're not on time. So I took a picture and I think he ended up posting it too. So that was cool. That was the day they were doing the whole film canister thing with Bill Mullins, the day before everybody met at the Veterans Hall. The next day when Bill Munns showed everybody the picture. So that was the day before that.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool.
This is the same place where Munns was looking at the video stuff, the movie reels.
Here's a picture of Monkey. This was like the second time I met Monkey. She's rest in peace. She was a beautiful, amazing dog.
Mm-hmm.
Great girl.
She's a cool dog, a unique dog.
Oh, one of a kind, I think.
Oh yeah.
Cooler than last.
Yeah. It never let you get away without throwing a ball.
Nope, I remember that. So this was after we filmed that recreation, Robert and Rowdy. Brandon's.
The soiree at the bookstore. This was the Halloween, man.
That's it.
This was a great night. Bart and everybody was there. There's Jamie. Other people's names I don't know. That's Kip's camper right there, I believe.
Yeah.
I think we were eating like steak or whatever.
Yeah, Kip should be in the shot somewhere. I see.
He's probably somewhere.
Yeah, see my face sticking out over there off to the side.
Kip's probably in the road. What?
The one lady that was doing the parking, she's right there in that red chair. She's the lady that was in that shot in front of the parabolic mic and parabolic dish.
Yeah.
And then the person standing there off to the right of the chair, a friend of Steven's, and she's also an artist too. She takes photographs, and I can't remember her name.
I can't remember.
But I do recognize the guy in the green chair. Looks pretty young man in the green chair there.
Young and immature. That night, I was heading back to Ventura, and I can't remember what time of the night it was, but I was like, I'm gonna head back home, guys. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Funny, I didn't tell you this, but probably an hour of driving, I had to pull off the side of the road and sleep in my truck for the night because I was so tired.
I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad that's what you did. You didn't drive off the road.
Yeah.
I made sure to pull off. I was like, I can't do this. I'm just feeling it. So I slept and woke up the next morning, headed on down the road. So that's what I did. I stayed safe, and thank God for that. But that was everything. That's everything I had. Thought it would be unique to talk about all that cool stuff that people probably didn't know about. I thought it'd be a different kind of episode for us. So I'm glad it worked out.
There's a lot more. So yeah.
We have a lot more for future episodes.
There's one thing that would have been nice to see with the Lenny Green musical that Rowdy did. He did a music video for Lenny Green and one of his songs, and we filmed that up there. Actually, Rowdy filmed it up there. I was just
Well,
assistant.
Robert was a cameraman, and I directed it. That turned out pretty good, actually. I mean,
yeah,
we pretty much shot it in half a day, and most of it was driving, and it came out pretty good, I thought, for a no budget, and just get some guys together and shoot. You guys did a good job, you and my buddy Dave. And
speaking of no budget, I'm doing another film project, and I'm literally coming on barely any money. Per usual, like I always do. Hey,
you gotta stop buying bass guitars, man. Save up.
I only have one. I'm actually bringing my bass.
Oh, okay.
There's a spot I want to try where Robert was playing the flute, where you guys got some weird whistle. I'm gonna play my bass up there and see what I can get.
There you go.
But no,
you might get some rocks.
I hope so. Rock and roll, literally.
Yeah, you might get some rocks.
You might get a lead guitar somewhere,
That'd be awesome. But that's because, like, the very last time I came up there, it's funny. Well, 2 times last year I came up there. The time before that, I actually ended up borrowing gas from Kip. And so I was like, this time I'm not going to make that same mistake. So I had this huge gas can. I think you guys saw it. But that week was just terrible for everybody. Everybody got flat tires. I ended up spending $800 on tires. So I was good on gas, but the tires got me that time.
Yeah. Everybody's eventually, even the red truck finally got a flat tire in the 10 years. That was a driver error more than it was the truck's fault. But yeah, everybody's gotten. I don't know. Have you gotten flat out there, Robert?
Yeah, and my FJ, my Ford Ranger long bed, 1-wheel drive, never got a flat. I always drove like a grandpa. And then the FJ is like a cooler car, so you go a little faster, flat.
I don't think I told you guys what happened. I was out there a few days earlier because I was going to stay at last camp. I had my cousin with me, Gibby. So I drove out there. I got a flat. And so I went to the Bluff Creek Bridge and changed it there. I had to pull everything out and then get the spare, put it on, and put everything back in. Then we got to camp, got kind of everything set up. It was an easy setup, so it wasn't too bad. And I was like, oh, this is nice. But you know what? I was kind of feeling really nervous not being there, or just being there alone and on a spare. So I was like, I'm going to go a different way out. I'm going to go up the Lonesome Ridgeway above the top of the world that goes behind is that the road, or what road is that?
Yeah, it is, but that wasn't a good decision. There's a lot of go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe it wasn't, because the reasoning behind it, I knew it was paved, and I got a flat tire coming on the 12 and 13. Like, well, I can go this way. I know it's paved, so there might not be as much debris, but I didn't think about it over the winter. And so there was like a lot of rocks I was trying to go through. Luckily, I made it back to 96 and camped somewhere by the Klamath. The next morning, I drove to Eureka and went to a tire place, bought a tire, and they didn't have the other 4 or the other 3 tires I needed. It's like, well, I already spent $100 on one tire. I can't return. And so by the end of the closing day for a lot of businesses, I found a place that they had all 4 tires. And when I got to that place, my spare went flat. And they ended up putting all 4 tires on there on my truck. It ended up costing $800. And that's when I got back to last camp later that evening. Or no, the berm. We were all camping at the berm, but that was a day in itself, man.
That was a long drive. Yep.
But anyway. Well,
just think of how once you could have been. So consider yourself lucky.
It was pretty bad. It was scary. Well, gentlemen, yeah, dude, I could have died. Thanks for joining me tonight and doing this. It's probably kind of late for everybody, but we made it work.
Yeah. Well, before you sign off, I just wanted to give a plug in for Lenny Green's song. Rowdy, what's the name of that song?
Where Are You Now, Patty?
Yeah, and he sounds like Johnny Cash.
Ooh, Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
I'll have to find that and put a link in the description so everybody can watch it. So yeah.
I think it's probably way back there on the Bluff Creek Project Facebook site, but I'll put it up there again because there's a new version of it. And it's
awesome. I got
cool.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about it later. But anyway, thanks guys for joining us, and until next week with the Bluff Creek Project Podcast.